Welcome food fans, picky eaters, the flavor curious, and everyone in between. Nothing makes good food better than good conversation, and your table is ready. Welcome back to another episode of the Food For ThoughtCast with your hosts, Melissa Reagan and Steven Gonzalez, but you can call them Chef. All right, let's get this episode started.
Hey there, food fans. Welcome back to the Food For ThoughtCast with me, your host, Melissa Reagan, and my co-host with the most, Chef Steven Gonzalez. What's up, Steve?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I am stoked because today we are talking to Dylan McDonnell from Foodini. Hi, Dylan. How are you?
Dylan.
Hi, guys. Great to be on. Thank you both for having me.
Absolutely. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm here in Los Angeles. The sun is shining and it's the middle of October, so life could be a lot worse.
How's the weather over there?
Yeah.
It's great. It's honestly, so I think it's why people live here, right? It's it's coming on to winter time and it's so nice out. People are at the beach all weekend. It's beautiful right now. We're very lucky.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it's currently freezing to death, but it's not that cold. I'm just always cold. So
Fair.
Yeah, West Texas.
Yeah.
We're about to hit the cold front season, but we're still hot. So, it is what it is.
Texas right now is having the hottest October on record, I read a few days ago. Fun times.
I don't know.
Fun times.
Yeah.
So LA, that's a beautiful place. I've been there a couple of times, but it was literally, I took the risk of leaving LAX during a short layover and took a taxi to the beach so I could put my feet in the water and then went right back to fly off to somewhere else. So I hope I get to spend some time there at some point.
You absolutely should. It's like I said, there's lots to do here. It's lovely. Worth a longer visit, 100%.
All right. I'm not hearing an LA accent though, so tell us what's going on there.
Not an LA accent. I'm a funny one. I was born in Philly originally, also not a Philly accent, but grew up in Ireland. So I consider myself mainly Irish, and yeah, hence the accent.
Well, wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. At the beginning of every episode, Steve and I always ask each other and our guest, what was the most amazing thing you ate this week? Steve, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. You go first.
First, let's see. I'm finally putting up some content again. So it's some chuck style ribs, and we made it, Halloween themed, and made like a real dark barbecue sauce and put that with like pumpkin mac and cheese. Roasted it for a few hours till it was fork tender, and everything was really good. Typically, I'm not a big fan of like the sweeter barbecue sauces, but this one, I ended up using a lot of those juices that came out of those ribs. And yeah, it's set up really good. So like I took it out a little while ago, and you just see all that gelatinous, like from like all the meat. Oh my God, it was good. Just really, really good.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. I want some ribs in my life right now. I had yogurt and a banana for breakfast. It was not amazing. Dylan, what was the most amazing thing that you ate this week?
This week was LA Tech Week here, right? So there was like 1,200 events or something over the course of a few days. And I was running around like a madman trying to do work in between. So it was mainly like a not cooking week and a eating out / takeaway week. But you know what I got? And it was actually shockingly good was Goop. Gwyneth Paltrow's brand here. Have you heard of it? Yeah,
I have.
Someone had recommended it to me, and I ordered the chicken teriyaki salad from there, which is like their number one bestseller. Oh my God, so good. Whatever they're doing, like I wouldn't normally be like a kale and broccoli guy, but so good. Really good quality chicken, really good quality veg, and the sauce is incredible. It was delicious. I'm a convert. It'll be my new go-to, I think, from a DoorDash perspective. So yeah, that's what I had.
That's incredible. I mean, they must be doing something right to get somebody to eat kale, because I I like kale, but I still don't want to eat it.
I'm like looking forward to the next kale that I get in that salad, which is words that I never thought would come out of my mouth. So they're definitely
I
doing
eat because
something
it's
right.
good for you, but there are times where I just have to force myself to eat healthy.
I hear you.
I finished out the weekend strong at the North Carolina State Fair yesterday. So I have to say that the most amazing thing I've eaten in the past week was a huge basket of street corn nachos. So they were like parm, roasted corn, Parmesan, hot sauce, paprika, cilantro, cheese, chips, and I also had a Korean corn dog. So the Korean corn dog was like half cheese, half all beef hot dog, and breaded in potatoes. Like you can't go wrong there. No, there's nothing haute cuisine about fair food, but I love once a year to just go eat all the garbage. So that's what I ate. So
Dead right.
Yep. You have to every once in a while. So. So interestingly though, I downloaded your app this week. I was looking around in the app and I was thinking while I was at the fair, how hard it would be to go to the fair if you had any one of the big 9 allergies. Like almost impossible to participate in any sort of celebratory event safely. And so, Dylan, why don't you tell the listeners just a little bit about your mission and how it all started, and take us from the beginning.
Sure. All right. So let's go to the beginning. So I mentioned born in Philly, grew up in Ireland. I was a corporate lawyer by trade. Don't hold it against me, right? I'm not practicing anymore.
We listen and we don't judge.
Exactly. Yeah. So I worked in big law for a few years. I worked with a lot of the major global tech companies that like Apple's, Facebook's, and Microsoft's of the world. And that journey took me to Australia about 5-6 years ago, where I moved initially still in my capacity as a lawyer. I kind of went in-house with a company that was a client in Dublin there. And while there, started the company. And my background and the reason why is celiac. So diagnosed when I was 10 years old after a good few years of being quite ill. This is in the era, in rural Ireland, celiac, gluten were not words in the vocab, 20 odd years ago. And so, it took them ages to figure out like what was wrong with me and why I kept getting sick. And then finally someone figured it out, diagnosed celiac, and then gluten-free diet ever since, which has been great because I'm not getting sick anymore for the most part. But I think what continued to just eke away at me over time was, why is it still so difficult to dine out of home? Like why in restaurants, in the fair, ordering online, like why is it so hard for me to understand if I can or can't eat this? And I had so many examples of like getting served the wrong food in restaurants, being sick, the staff like looking at me, when I asked the question, be like, oh, I think that's gluten-free, which is the worst answer of all time, because it's like, they haven't a clue and they're just guessing. And again, in their defense, for the most part, it's most of the time they're not even given the information in the first place. Like they have no way of knowing themselves. It's not even not their fault. Yeah. We can come to that later. But from the consumer perspective, it was just extremely frustrating. And that's even without anaphylactics, right? And so the more I kind of dug into it over time, the more I realized, wow, this is like a way bigger consumer problem than I thought. Like I thought it was just kind of me and a few other people around the place, but no, it's like, oh, so there's 33 million Americans with a diagnosed food allergy. Like that's like 1 in 10. Yeah. And then I was like, all right. And then there's another 50 million people who have an intolerance that like avoid foods not because it's a formal allergy, because they don't feel well after it. And then there's another 70 million that are vegan and vegetarian and keto and paleo and low FODMAP and all these other lifestyle diets that they follow for health or other reasons. And so I was like, the TAM is just so big, the total amount of people impacted by this. And the more I dug in, the more I just couldn't find any kind of comprehensive solution around the world. So initially started the company in Australia. What we primarily do, and so I moved to LA about 18 months ago and we launched here then. But what we do essentially is we drive ingredient transparency. So we work with restaurants and food service companies to identify the ingredients in the food that they serve, the allergens and dietaries that are attached to those ingredients. And then by doing that, we can power a personalized menu solution for consumers so that they can understand exactly what they can and can't eat on menus across not just the big 9, but across nearly 150 different dietary needs and food allergies. And there's a few different kind of sub-products in that. You mentioned the app, Melissa. There's a few others, but I'll hit pause there for a second because I've just talked a lot. But yeah, that's in essence the background and what we do.
No, that's incredible. You know, there's something so, I think there's just like something so beautiful about realizing that something doesn't just affect you, right? It's like almost when you gain that perspective and it blows up your worldview just a little bit. You're like, it's not just me. It's not just me. And here's the thing I can make here's the thing that I can do to make a difference. Is like, it's a really beautiful thing. I'm so glad that you aren't getting ill anymore. I understand it's like a really terrible thing to have to deal with. And then it goes way further than like, I just can't have the same fun as everybody else. It's like, no, you can't. It's almost impossible to eat out somewhere without feeling like, I can't even imagine what if the consequence was death, right? It's just terrifying. It must be on some level, right? So I think it's amazing. I think it's absolutely amazing. So.
I mean, I can remember growing up, you know, having family who were lactose free. They couldn't do dairy, anything like that. The nut allergies, things like that. But as I got into like the culinary world and whatnot, like I started learning more allergies, things like that people had. And I thought, wow, like I've never thought about that. I never knew about that. Even I think one, you know, like nightshades and things like that. I'm still a little unclear about that. But like when I first heard about like someone telling me like I can't eat nightshades, I was just dumbfounded. Like, what do you mean? What is that? You know? And you know, there's a lot of allergies that people have nowadays that we still don't know like about every single one of them. But like part of the journey is like learning what can you have, what can't you have, and how do we prepare something for you as chefs to where you can have a meal, have a good time, and have a great experience. You know,
100%. And it's interesting. Like, I've learned so much over the last few years doing this as well. I was the same as you, right? I was like, well, one, I didn't realize that the kind of core group was so big. And then we started with just the major allergens as well. But every day we'd get a new email. I'm allergic to strawberries. I'm allergic to kiwis. I'm allergic to nightshades. We've the CMO at Let Us Entertain You group in Chicago is allergic to ginger. And she was telling us about, you know, it came on her as an adult, and she got stung, I think 2 or 3 times in cocktails, because it was a hidden ingredient in them, like places that you would just never think, right?
Yeah.
And to your point as well, Melissa, it's like it's continuing to grow year on year as well, right? There was the like back, you know, 20, 30 years ago, you know, people had allergies, but you know, it was much smaller. Year on year, numbers continue to grow. Children, by far the most prevalent. One of our advisors, I think in New York City, there's 21 kids in the class. 19 of the children have food allergies, and no 2 kids have the same food allergies. Insane stuff. And there's data to back it up now. I think 40% of kids who have food allergies have more than one. If they have one, they have more than one. So the point here is like, you know, it's not just about the medical and things going, but it's also the like inclusion piece, right? Like to your point, if you don't feel safe to dine out, well, then you're probably not going to go. And then your friends and your coworkers and your family are going to go and to the fair and to dinner and to all these experiences. And you now as the consumer or as the person with allergy, like you're kind of in a way excluded from that social activity, which is awful. And so that's again part of the reason why, you know, we believe just providing this transparency just helps people live normal lives like everyone else as well.
Well, I think it's not only like getting the producers and vendors to be transparent about the ingredients, it's also the education on the back end. Mm-hmm. I'm a chef, and I had to send back a dish 4 times last week because of a shellfish allergy. There was just a barrier in communication between myself and the person making it. I was like, no, you need to get like a new bowl and a new knife and a new cutting board. And like that, where we make the shrimp over there, like you're going to have to cook this over there. And there was just some breakdown where this ingredient was getting touched every single time because it was a station where a lot of shellfish came from. And I was like, no, like we have there's such a burden, not even a burden. We have a big responsibility to make sure that we're keeping people safe. And not even just from the inclusion standpoint, right? I think this becomes like an accessibility issue. Like nobody would ever call a food allergy a disability, but we're making the same. We're leveling the playing field for people with all sorts of like sensory disabilities, physical and mental, emotional things. And like we should be treating that just as important as it should be like prioritized just as high. I think it's a place having a wheelchair ramp, right? And I think that work is like really, really important. That Nightshade, Steve, it's funny that you should mention that. The place that I currently work for is the first place that's ever put an emphasis on capsicum being an allergen in its items. I knew about Nightshade because I'm kind of a food nerd. And so those foods actually, they used to think they were poisonous was the lore. And so I always found that really interesting. But Nightshades it's an interesting one, right? Tobacco, eggplant, pepper, tomato, potato.
So. Oh, sorry, you go, Steve.
I was gonna say, I mean, as a chef, there's nothing worse than having the feedback of like, hey, your food made me sick. Like that is the worst feeling in the world, because we got into the industry because we want to entertain, we wanted to take care of people, hospitality, things like that. And if our food made someone sick, like that is just, to me, it makes me sick to my stomach knowing that I made someone sick. And I've had that happen once or twice in my career, and man, I just felt horrible, but you don't know what people are allergic to, and you're learning as you go. So when they have real strict diets, you put a lot more emphasis and a lot more detail into preparing every single ingredient, so.
Yeah. And I think that's the perfect segue into like I said, initially I came at this from the consumer standpoint, right? And my mom has a restaurant back in Ireland. So I've been in and around the industry as well in the background, but I also brought on a co-founder when I came to the US, Erica Anderman, who has 15 years experience working in restaurant tech, like across a range of different companies. And again, really understands, I suppose, the restaurateurs and the challenges they face. But I think that the key point here is I have a ton of sympathy for restaurants who have to deal with this, because to your point, it's so hard, right? Like Melissa, you just gave the example of the kitchen and the shellfish, and like 99% of kitchens aren't built to have these separate stations and where you can very easily avoid cross contact. But like it's a really, really, really tough thing to manage as a restaurant, right?
It's so financially, right? Like I'm blessed to work at a place that has a separate gluten-free dedicated fryer. We're not a certified gluten-free place by any means. Like there's always still the risk of cross-contamination, but we do have one fryer where no gluten goes in it, right? But that is a huge financial burden for any restaurant. Like that's space, that's so much oil, that's so much operating expense. Like it's why equipment's expensive. Buying another one and only using it for like one thing that might not produce as much revenue as like the other thing is like, that's crazy.
No, that's insane. No, I love that, by the way, first of all, as the celiac. But I think, and that's the point, right? So like, as I said, a ton of sympathy for restaurants. It's extremely hard to do. So like the way we kind of approach this is how can, we're ultimately here to help restaurants display this information for consumers. That's what we do as a company, right? We take the data, we aggregate it. So just, I suppose, to explain how we've thought about this, it can be daunting. So like the big enterprise groups, for example, your Chipotle's and your Sweetgreen, they have in-house teams of people who can, spend all day, every day just working on making sure this data is correct and accurate and up to date at all times, so on and so forth. Most restaurants don't have that luxury. They don't have the time. They're really keeping the doors open, not a mind trying to ascertain all of this other information. But I do truly believe that it is a major, major risk to every restaurant to not have this documented somewhere formally internally. And I'm not sure how much familiarity you guys have with like the different inventory management systems and like, from the craftable to the meat, to the margin edge, to the, restaurant 365. But how we typically work is we pull data from multiple sources. So we pull menu data from POS. We pull inventory data from an inventory or recipe management system, if that exists. And then through that also we get the product data. And we also work with a lot of the suppliers and distributors to make sure that we have SKU numbers and like exact products, because as you will both know as well, ketchup number 1 and ketchup number 2 don't necessarily have the same ingredients, right? One can have major 9. So it's not just a matter of saying there's ketchup in here. We need to know what brand and from where, because even in different regions, different products can have different ingredients and allergens as well. So we've essentially built a system that allows us to aggregate all of that data accurately, enrich it and tag it with the correct allergens and dietaries. We also have a team of dietitians who do manual QA over the top for anything that there is like uncertainty on, because there often will be like a crazily
every label that says seasonings on it or natural flavors, like that's why almost every ketchup has allium allergen in it, but they won't say that.
Exactly.
Sorry. That one really bugs me, because I'm like, I know you guys put garlic powder in this, just say so I can tell my guest if it's safe or not.
100%. On the money. And then essentially we'll work with the restaurant to just verify that we've done it correctly. And then we give, and what our primary product is Melissa, to your earlier point on the app, is actually an in-venue physical and digital solution to navigate this for consumers. So we'll put a QR code on a menu saying allergies, dietary, scan here. And we'll put a button on the website in the menu section as well, similarly saying allergy, dietary menu. Consumer clicks the button or scans the QR straight into a URL. So it's not an app to download or a profile to create. That just prompts them to create their dietary profile. 150 options, so gluten, dairy, tomato, sesame, save.
FODMAPs, all the stuff.
Exactly. And then instantly the menu customizes. Here's what you can eat. Here's what you can eat with a modifier and what that modifier is. And here's what you can't eat and why, because there's tomato sauce baked into this that can't be removed. So ultimately what that does for the restaurant is stops that staff member from being the main line of defense, which they currently are, without usually all of the information to make that claim / the training, frankly, most of the time. And so it puts it kind of back on the consumer to look at the information themselves from a single source of truth that's been confirmed by both your team and our team, that we keep up to date in live time. So we're seeing about a 60% reduction in questions for staff around allergies and dietaries. Obviously a massive reduction in the number of mistakes. But now also we have a lot of data for restaurants that we can share. So we can also say, hey guys, in X location last month, you had 1,000 people create a dietary profile. 40% were gluten-free, 25% were vegan, 10% were keto. You actually don't have any keto-friendly options on your menu. Here's how you could swap in a product or an ingredient into X item to make it keto-friendly. That could drive X, Y, Z revenue. So that kind of data drives not just menu optimization, but now also you understand your consumers better. You can market to them better. You can figure out, there's a higher proportion of celiacs, Melissa, in this area. Therefore, it is worth buying that gluten-free fryer because we can go after that market. Once they know that we have that gluten-free fryer and we're the only place around that has it, well, we're now the safest place in town and we have great food as well. Of course, we're going to capture that loyal market. And one of the last point I'll say on that as well, and it stems back to what we're talking about, inclusion, the veto vote. That's the big one that I think a lot of people miss. If the three of us are going for lunch and I'm celiac, we have to go somewhere that I can eat. So if you lose me, you don't just lose me, you lose both of you guys as well. And Melissa, I can guarantee you, if I know that your restaurant has that gluten-free deep separate fryer, that's where we're going for lunch. And we're not going to the 5 places down the road. So
absolutely.
That permeates.
Yeah, man, I love that so much. So I have the app open in front of me, but I want to understand what cities, what markets is it complete in? Because I don't have anything in the cities I've lived in. I've been playing with it.
It's just really in LA right now. So we launched it. So there's kind of 2 ways we work. We work with restaurants to put this in their ecosystem. So therefore we don't need our app for it at all. People can download the app to access the data, but they don't have to. They can just do it via URL.
Right.
The app is mainly for discovery. So Dylan is sitting in Santa Monica and he wants to go for lunch. Where are the restaurants around him, plural, that have options for him, and what are they? So it's the same concept, but it's more to discover new places. And like I said, we launched it in LA in beta a few months ago. Obviously, to be a compelling consumer valuable app, you have to have a lot of options on there. And so that's what we're building over time as we're working with more and more venues. We add them on, and then we get to a point that we push that properly.
I'm excited. I want to see what markets you're able to capture, because this is a huge opportunity. And congratulations to you guys. This is amazing. I can't wait to just see it move across. Super
My
exciting.
question is, so do you go up to the restaurants and approach them and say, hey, we have this app that helps with this, and you just basically go talk to them, just to get their name out, or how do you get all these restaurants onto your app?
Yeah, how's the connection happen?
No, it's a great question. So we have this combination. We have obviously sales. So we we'll approach restaurants and say, hey, this is something we think you should have. Here are the benefits of it. All you need to do is provide us with these data points and our data extractions, and we'll do all the heavy lifting for you. And this is probably an exercise you were planning on doing at some point that a consultant was trying to charge you $20,000 to do. We have a very simple and accurate and dynamic solution, and we'll keep this update for you, on a go-forward basis. That's number one, Steve. But interestingly, and one of the kind of big news stories for the allergen community as recently as last Monday is that in the US to date, and you guys will know this, there is zero regulation around food allergies in restaurants. The only requirement that existed was around nutrition. So if you have 20 plus locations, you have to label for calories and nutrition on menus. That was the only requirement that the FDA brought in a decade ago or so. On Monday, last week in California, Gavin Newsom signed the first piece of legislation in the United States as relates to food allergies in restaurants, which essentially is mandating, effective 1 July next year, any restaurant group that has 20 plus locations nationally or worldwide, where one of them is in California, they're captured, and they will have to label all of their physical and digital menus for the major 9 allergens by law.
Wow.
So, I like it. I don't understand how anybody could be unhappy about this. Like, I understand it's a little bit of extra legwork, but like, they owe their customers that. Like, I just don't, honestly, it's a protection for you too, right? Like, it's such a liability issue. I don't know.
100%.
I don't know how anybody could think this is a bad thing.
Like, it seems so intuitive in one way, and I think you're right. I think a lot of restaurants, like, and I get it. Like, there's so much going on. You're trying to like deal with 100 problems. This isn't necessarily the biggest burning fire until it is, and all it takes is one staff member on one shift to forget that there's sesame in the hummus and serve it to one consumer who has that allergy, who doesn't have their EpiPen in their pocket with them. And you're dealing with a really potential serious issue, and the lawsuits and everything that come with it, and the brand damage that come with that as well.
From a legal standpoint, like, what is the actual liability? If that happens, is that just a civil suit, or are there other, risks that are associated with, like, if I overserve somebody in the state of Texas, I can be found criminally negligent, right? But how does that work with food allergies? Like, what's the legal ramification there?
You're right to point out the difference in states, right? So there's obviously different liability in different places. Like, regardless of anything with the new legislation in California, it's typically a duty of care, right? Like, if a consumer puts you on notice of a food allergy and you then serve them food that has that, you're 100% civilly going to be liable. Criminally, I think it would probably have to be found that it was, purposeful or, intentional. Actually, a very sad case. You guys might have seen it, and it has a weird twist, but your listeners are probably interested. Unfortunately, Disney, who are known in industry, by the way, as being like the best when it comes to food allergies, because obviously so many children have food allergies. But unfortunately, a year or so ago, they killed a female doctor at one of their restaurants. She had 3 times said, I have these allergies. 3 times the staff were like, no, it's not in there. And it was. And unfortunately, she passed away. And then there was a lawsuit. The husband, sued for, on the back of that. And Disney initially pushed back on the lawsuit on the grounds that the husband had a subscription to the Disney Plus streaming app, like Netflix, like Disney Plus. And in the terms and conditions of that, it says something along the lines of, if you have any grievance against any Disney affiliate, then you can't sue. Essentially, you have to go through like a mediation process or whatever. And they tried to defend the food allergy death on the back of the husband's.
What does that have to do with a streaming platform? That is a far reach.
Crazy stuff. But like and then that remed the front page of the papers again. And ultimately, I think someone in the Disney PR team made the smart decision to retract that. Yeah, maybe this isn't the best look for us. And so they did change it. But it's just another example of again, a horrible, unfortunate issue that went wrong that ended up for Disney, like, it was absolutely horrendous PR, not just the initial incident and the unfortunate fatality there, but then the lawsuit that is still ongoing and continuing to get coverage. Like, it's just so damaging. And particularly with a community that pay such close attention to every little detail because they have to, and because, you know, it's, as you said earlier, potentially life and death for a lot of these people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, sometimes I know if I eat too much dairy, it makes me a little phlegmy. That's nothing compared to somebody who's literally taking their life in their hands every time they go out to eat. Mm-hmm. And it's not just when you go out to eat, right? Like it is, if you have family members with food allergies, it changes the entire way that you will approach cooking too. Yeah. You know, and I know it's like really nerve-wracking for people too, and maybe they don't understand. Like I worked for Brinker a while ago. Brinker has like an award-winning allergy program. They've got a separate binder and a menu and all the allergens listed, and every table that has a food allergy gets a visit from the chef. It doesn't matter how busy they are. And I did that a lot in my tenure there, and people would be so surprised. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, it's very, very important for this reason. And then, of course, we always had the guests too that would be like, "Oh, I'm doing gluten-free," and then I would walk past their table later, and they'd be drinking a beer. Like, no. You're doing gluten-free bread because it's trendy.
Yeah.
That's not a gluten-free beer. So, like, but okay, you know, like, but I don't know. I think it's going to take a mindset shift. You were talking about inclusion at the beginning of the podcast, and I think that's a really important point, right? Because when we talk about things like diet culture, there's plenty of people out there that do gluten-free but don't have a medical reason to do gluten-free, not at least not a diagnosis, right? Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, people have preferences, you know. But the flip side of that is when we're talking about not catering to people, but we're talking about taking care of people that have food allergies, I think we should be approaching it from a standpoint of these are all the things you can have instead of these are all the things you can't have. It's like when you're on a diet, you can't just be like, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. It's more like, these are the things I get to have, because it can just remove some of that stigma. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's why we did the menu digital static, the dynamic menu, the way we did it. That's exactly how it frames. It brings, here are the 15 things you can have straight to the top. The bad stuff is at the bottom of the menu. You don't even see that unless you want to go down there. And that's kind of, Melissa, to your exact, that's for the people who they're dairy intolerant and they really don't want to eat it, but then they see that one dairy containing menu and they're like, oh, you know what, to hell with it this week, or
I'll just feel bad.
I'll suffer the consequences tomorrow, whatever, I'm still having that dessert. So we'll still show them the items not suitable for them in case they fall in that bucket, but obviously just making sure that the ones that they definitely can have permeate straight to the top of the menu. That's pretty critical here. But what we do also, and it's worth flagging, so that legislation is now signed in California. It's effective 1 July 26. The knock-on impacts of it are going to be much bigger than in just California, because as we all know, most national brands and mid-market brands tend to have a consistent experience across the board, right, nationally. So when they update their menus, most likely using digital solutions, because none of them want to go and put contains XYZ beside every single menu item on all their menus and menu boards. But when they do this in California, our understanding is that the majority of them will also roll out the same data across the country, right? So all of a sudden, all these brands in every state are going to have this information, you know, easily accessible for all their consumers. So straight away, that starts that shift in both how the restaurant industry starts seeing what other restaurants are doing, but also consumer expectations around transparency for this information. The legislation in California was initially meant to apply to every restaurant, including your mom and pop corner store. And at the 11th hour, they made a decision that to just make sure this got over the line, they'd kind of, you know, pull back initially to the 20 plus. But the senator has already said she's going to go back for all of them, so that all restaurants are captured by this, not just the 20 plus. New York already has a bill in train that currently captures all restaurants, not just the bigger groups. And I think Oregon and Illinois are two other states that are getting ready for this as well. MAHA have all sorts of things coming as well. They just announced food allergies as a priority health issue from a White House perspective. First time ever that's happened. You've seen in Texas with food dyes and all sorts of different things that they're working on there. So the point I'm trying to make here is that there's been a shift, and regulation now is coming in this space. And it's now just a matter of when, not if, all restaurants in every state are going to have to, in some manner, shape, or form, to provide this information. And so what we're kind of saying to restaurants is, you don't need to work with us, you don't need, but the two main things you kind of do need to do is, one, document your food, the ingredients and food allergies. If you don't want to use an inventory management solution or whatnot, or, just make sure that somewhere in-house, someone has gone to the exercise of saying, in each of the menu items, here are the allergens that are in there for at least the major 9, one. And two, to your earlier point, Melissa, around like what you did in Brinker, have a process. Just make sure there's a process internally from start to finish. When someone flags it, here is what happens. If there's a menu substitution that day, if, for example, the supplier runs out of X brand of ketchup, so gives you Y that day, that there's a process in place for someone to just do a quick sense check. Does this impact the allergen information in any of our menu items? And if so, where is it being updated, and how is that being communicated to front of house as well, to make sure that we don't accidentally make someone sick and there's a new product in here today. So those are the two things we say: document and have a process, just as a minimum. If you don't already.
I think, not everybody has Let Us Entertain You money, right? Not everybody has Brinker money. But I think that even the mom and pop places, they owe that. I think they owe that as a minimum to their guests. And, I love the generational dialogue about like, well, in my day, everybody didn't have all these food allergies. No, people just died and we didn't know why. Like, yes, they were still allergic. God, like,
You're not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things I do like about this app, I'm looking at it right now, and I like the fact that it has the matched profile menu items of things that you can have on top, and then I also like the fact that you have a part that says modify ingredients. Like, that's really cool, And can you explain that just a little bit? Like, how'd you all think of like, hey, this might work, and then you have to modify a little bit? Like, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, no, it's funny that the reason why this was so hard to do is because even when restaurants have tagged items in the past, it's always tagged at the menu item level. This burger contains gluten. But if you have a gluten-free burger bun, then it wouldn't contain gluten. It would be, it would be suitable for that person. So the only way we believe you can do this comprehensively is by tagging, and that's what we do at the ingredient level. And then as the restaurant identifies, here are the 5 modifiers or 6 things that can be removed, that obviously shifts the dynamic of that dish. Yes, you're gluten-free, you have 10 allergies, you're allergic to all these things. But there is a way that we can amend this dish to make it suitable for you. And we know that because each individual modifier is tagged for the allergens, not just the menu item itself. And the other reason we did that, Steve, is from an online ordering perspective. So one of the big things that is important to us is our ability to work with the online ordering providers to provide this customization in for them as well. And we have a few pilots ongoing and things like that. But ultimately, the goal is that you can go into DoorDash or Uber Eats or Grubhub or Toast or Olo or whatever it is, first or third party that you use, and have that same personalized ordering experience, but also add to the cart and checkout. And not have to have Foodini for one and DoorDash for the other, for example. And that obviously,
that built-in capability is so important.
Exactly. And we built the schema to make sure that we can do that. And from the online ordering provider, it's a win-win for everyone, right? It ensures the consumer knows exactly what they can eat. It makes it easier for them to place an order and less, scrolly like you are on Netflix when you're constantly looking for that thing you want to watch, and then never find it, and then you end up just on your phone and not actually watching anything. It's the same thing here. It's like, if you actually show consumers, here's a restaurant that has an option that's suitable for you that we think you'll like, you're going to order and add to cart and check out so much quicker. It's going to drive conversion for online ordering and for restaurants, and it's going to drive retention as well. Such a better consumer experience. So that's why, Steve, we made sure that we built the schema of the technology to go down to that kind of modifier and even beyond level. That was a core component of the decision.
It really seems like a win-win.
Yeah. No, that was the thinking.
Yeah, exactly. For the restaurants, it's a little bit of extra homework, but you know what? It pays dividends in the long run. Like you have, like you were saying, the retention for your customers, like you're preventing yourself from getting any kind of like negative publicity, things like that. Like everything about this is just really excellent and brilliant in my opinion.
No, I really appreciate that. It took a lot of time, because again, as you guys know, there's so many edge cases in terms of what can happen in supply chain and with restaurants and different tech stacks and different types of restaurants, from SMB to mid-market to enterprise. We do some work with hotels and stadiums and schools and universities as well. So like there's just so many different places where this can operate differently. So it took quite a bit of time to try and have a system that could kind of deal with all of these different scenarios. But, you know, we're in a pretty good place right now, and we've been kind of slowly, you know, making sure. We knew this compliance was coming, and so we wanted to just make sure we were kind of ready for that. We get inbound all the time from restaurants around the country who just, they're like, yeah, this makes complete sense. We just want to do it. Like, let's do it. And we get them up and running in a few days, and don't get too many complaints, thankfully.
I love it so much. I'm excited for this podcast to be like, we knew Dylan when, and then every state, every county is going to have something in the Foodini app, and we'll be like, yeah, we talked to that guy right on the edge of the beginning, you know? So this is a really incredible thing. I want to take it back to the beginning though. What did you grow up eating, and how have you had to modify that since? Like, did you figure out how to redo some of your favorites? Did you go change the recipes, and what's that journey look like for you?
Well, the one good thing about being Irish is that potatoes is such a foundational part of our diet. And I know it's so cliche, but it's actually so true. Like dinners growing up were like meat, potato, and veg of some sort. Meat or fish, potato, veg. Like that was 90% of every dinner we'd ever have. So eating at home was actually fine and continues to be fine. Like, and thankfully, a lot of the gluten-free substitutions, like the pasta and spaghetti in particular, is pretty close. Some of the breads can be awful. Some of the pizza bases, hit and miss, right? But eating at home was fine. Dining out was always the problem, right? So it was when we were going for lunch at school or blah, blah, blah. And if they didn't have gluten-free bread or, whatever, it was like, oh God, like what am I actually going to eat here? I picking up the shelf? So I'd say, like, candidly, it's more been about like finding the places around me that I know have that option, and then just knowing that on a go forward basis. Like even where I am here, city in Santa Monica, there's a Mediocino Farms down the road that has gluten-free bread. Sweetfin behind, which is a minute away as well, poke bowl concept here. Their entire menu is gluten-free. There's a Mexican place, Yagul, just down the road as well, that most of their menu is gluten-free. So in my mind, I'm like, anytime I go for lunch right here, it's one of the three of them. And so I think my amendments have been less about altering the dishes per se, Melissa, and more about altering how I just like plan how and where and when I eat, and just kind of having it somewhere in the back of my mind in some way. I'd say that's probably been the bigger adjustment over time, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. Just to be a little bit more strategic. Yeah,
I think, and that's every food allergy person, frankly. It's like, it's so funny, the super users in our world it's always the moms of kids with food allergies. No one cares more than those moms. And like, again, you can imagine the stress of having like an 8-year-old who's out and about in the world that that if they accidentally have that peanut, like it could be very, very, very bad situation. Like it's an ongoing stressful situation at all times. And so the people in this community are just so plugged in 24/7 to the risk, and it's always somewhere in their mind. And I think that's where it comes into people like in their homes with like, say, celiac separate toasters or like separate preparation area. Like it permeates not just in restaurants, but in the household as well for most of these families. And it can be tough.
Sometimes the whole family just changes the way they eat. It's easier.
That's what my dad did, and then it was because my mother and sister were both kind of gluten intolerant as well, like not as bad as me, and so dad ended up just having to suffer through the the breads we were eating.
Every new bread you found that was terrible.
That's another one that just falls apart as soon as you touch it. There you go, aren't you happy?
So Foodini, how did you come up with that name, and did you have like any other names in mind when you were coming up with this?
Do you know what? It was, I came up with it pretty quickly. I had like, 100 on a page where you're thinking of every sort of different thing. And there was a lot of like, more boring, like with the word allergy and things. And I was like, I don't know if that really resonates with kind of what we're trying to do here. Where it came back, it was like Houdini, right? Houdini, the magician. The kind of way we've framed it is like magic. We will tell you what you can and can't eat in your food, right? So that was kind of where once it needed to have either food or eat or allergy or restaurant. There had to be something like that in there, but we wanted it to have a little bit more of a cool brand, I suppose, around it, but still one that people trust. Like ultimately, we have a team of like, we're not just going around scraping data and taking guesses here. We have a team of dietitians who are experts in this, who do significant QA. Like our entire thing is based on trust and accuracy. Like without that, we don't have a product that makes any sense for consumers to use. So I would think it kind of balances the like, this is like something that you and your friends can use to navigate life, but it's still trustworthy and it's still credible and it still is accurate and does their true job that we needed to do, which is identify the allergens in the food that we're eating.
I think the data, vetting and backing and the accuracy is great, because there are a lot of apps out there created by influencers that are like, these foods are good and these foods are bad, and there is no scientific backup for other than somebody's opinion, which is like, well, like an allergy is different, right? It's very black and white. It either has it or it doesn't.
That's a key point, Melissa. Like we don't make, because like I said, we cover 150 things, right? Like we have diet and stuff on there that aren't just the major non-allergens. We make no recommendation on what people should or shouldn't eat. Like that's a personal decision for you based on like gluten-free. I have to be gluten-free because I'm celiac, right? Your doctor could tell you, Melissa, based on your genetic makeup, you avoiding gluten could be the worst thing you could ever do. Like you might need to eat a ton of gluten. Like it's not as black and white, this is good and this is bad. And I think that's why so much like the gut health and biome testing and biomarkers and all these things that are coming now, like this space of personalized nutrition is really going to blow up, and people are going to make all sorts of decisions based on their body and what they should and shouldn't be eating. But I think it's such a good point. It's like, we don't tell you what you should and shouldn't eat. All we do is once you make a decision that you want to avoid X or Y or follow A or B diet, we will show you what you can eat according to that decision that you've made for yourself. I think that's such a good point.
I like that. I love that it's just strictly informative.
Exactly. I remember there was we had it. Well, not a good laugh. There's apps out there on like data where like you could take a picture of your food and it would tell you exactly what's in it. And we were looking at like, how are they? And it's like, what data set are they relying on to make this? And it's like, there is no data set. Like it's literally just like something detecting it. That looks like meat. Okay, meat. It's like you can't.
Yeah, some of the apps are absolutely wild. Like some of the even like personalized like diet or nutrition tracking apps where you take a picture of your dinner and upload, like your phone doesn't know what that is. Your phone doesn't know. You could have an entire steak and potato underneath a tortilla, and the only thing it's going to be able to see is the tortilla. Like it doesn't. It's like just kind of silly.
There's just no data set. That's why it's been so hard for us, honestly. It's like, and again, it's one of the reasons why for restaurants, it's like there is no magic data set that has this. Like if it did, it'd be so much easier for all of us. It's like it takes, unfortunately, if you were to do this manually, it takes work to get your whole menu and get all of your recipes and get all of the products and get all of the allergens and dietaries that are in those products, and then amalgamate it all together, and then also cover off the modifiers and the variable. Like it's a brutal job to have to do by manually. And again, like I said, I do still encourage anyone out there who has a restaurant to still do that themselves if that's the option they think is best. But the data is just hard to get and then also tag and get it accurate. It's a tough one. It has been for a while, and that's like I said, what we do isn't easy, but the good news is once you have it, and you have it in good shape, that's other than a few amendments here and there over time, it's a pretty easy thing to maintain.
Yeah. I like I said, it's a win-win. I don't see why anybody wouldn't do it. Unless there's an extreme case where it's so cost prohibitive. But even then it's like your consumers need the information. So I would find a way to make that happen. If your consumers trust you, that's all you can really ask for as a brand, right? For brand loyalty, like people know exactly what they're going to get. It's consistent and they know the information is accurate. So, why wouldn't you?
it's also kind of standard in other parts of the world. I meant to say earlier on the legislation piece, like Europe already has like, there's European law around labeling for, in Europe, it's major 14 allergens versus 9 here. And there's slight variance on how the different countries in Europe implement this. But take Ireland for an example, which is actually what the senator in California mirrored her bill off the back of a holiday she went to Ireland. You can't sell any food item in Ireland without the 14 allergens tagged on that thing. Any restaurant, hotel, hot dog stand, doesn't matter. Can't do it full stop. And sure, at the very start, there was a little bit of, oh, it's hard. I haven't heard a complaint in the last 10 years on it. It just became standard, system put in place. And not only is there virtually no complaints on the restaurant side, consumers are like, there's been no deaths that I've heard of.
Just is completely normalized. So
it's just the standard. It's just what everyone does, and it's completely accepted, and it works great.
I love it. I love that so much. Dylan, what's in the future? You're just going to keep collecting data until you take it over the US, right? That's really it.
Yeah, well, listen, we do want to be, we think we can be like the data provider for the restaurant industry, just to make this super simple for them. Because that's ultimately what, like, we're trying to make this as easy as possible for restaurants to do, because we know it's really hard. Like, that's ultimately, so yeah, what we're mainly working on right now is just continuing to build out any kind of product data set that we don't currently have. We have most of them, but there's the odd like bakery and such a place that, you know, it will always come across some weird things that we don't already have. We obviously are continuing to want to work with as many restaurants and restaurant groups that see the value in what we're doing and want to use kind of a technical dynamic solution versus maybe a more manual solution if they believe that's right for them. And then, as you said, Melissa, once we kind of continue to build up critical mass of restaurants, push out the Discovery app as well, so that consumers can discover the restaurants that have put out this information and can make an informed dining decision on where to go. It's funny, we got 2 or 3 of the reviews that we had on the app in beta were like, we got like 0 stars. Like, I'm in Texas and there's no restaurants here. It's like, we told you we're just in beta in LA. Why are you like marketing restaurants that we're not even live there? So if anyone wants to check out the app to kind of understand the functionality and just kind of see how we do it, and I'd put the location into like LA or Santa Monica just to get an idea. But that ultimately we believe will add a lot of value to the consumer community in probably sometime next year, when we can just build up enough choice for it to make sense for people to enter the experience. Because we want people to have a good experience. I don't want someone in North Carolina to go on and see 2 restaurants. Like, that's not really adding value. There to be enough.
Is it big markets first? You'll be like LA, Santa Monica, San Francisco, New York.
Yeah,
Boston.
It'll be the bigger markets first.
Yeah, Dallas maybe.
But the only thing we do like when we work with, like, we have random restaurants all over the place, because we're working with random restaurants all over the place in every state, in like most states. So, you know, at the same time, it can be useful, even if there's only 3 restaurants in Raleigh. You know, if someone's on holiday over there and they're just trying to make a quick call on where to go, and they've flown over from LA, you know, a lot of them will check. And if there is something there, obviously then that'll help. Yeah. But I'm just trying to be transparent in terms of that's not kind of the main thing we're pushing right now. And I wouldn't want consumers in Oregon to download it now and be like, oh, there are going to be a ton of things and then not. I would say if you're someone who has an allergy and wants to kind of understand the experience and see what we're kind of working towards and building towards, and maybe give us feedback on something that they'd love to see or a challenge they had, would always love that and encourage anyone to check it out. I'm just trying to say, in terms of having a good consumer experience that we want to give them, LA would be the place where we currently have the most options, but constantly building out over time. And we're really excited then to kind of look to push that more broadly as we work with more and more restaurants over the coming months.
I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? And granted, that's a really big market, which is awesome. And so, you know, I'm excited to see, you know, how far out you all go and things like that. Like, and you'll have to forgive me. I've been looking at the app, and it's really easy to navigate. I really like that. You know, there's nothing worse than when you download an app and you're trying to make the most out of it, and you just kind of confuse yourself along the way. Like, this is pretty straightforward. It's easy.
It's really user friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Appreciate that a lot. Thank you. That's kind of you to say.
Yeah, it's mega optimized, very, very streamlined. So I like it. I can't wait to see where it ends up. And now you got this podcast on your side, we'll share all the things, and
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
all the listeners will be in the loop. And so, but Dylan, like, what are you eating this week? Tell us.
So I'm flying to Tampa tomorrow for a restaurant legal
It's
tech
hot.
conference. I know, very exciting stuff. Restaurant legal tech, guys. That's, I know people would probably love to attend.
Yay!
We'll see what that's like. No, but it's a good, I think, community of people, and obviously now that there's so the honest answer is, Melissa, I have absolutely no idea. If any of your users has a recommendation for a good restaurant in Tampa, I think the conference is in the city center. I need to probably do some of my homework tomorrow morning and figure out what restaurants are around me and what I could eat. But this will be an eating out in a new restaurant type of week for me. But I feel like after last week, a lot of running around, maybe try and get a steak in there somewhere, a bit of red meat, bit of protein to keep the body moving. That's probably what I'm craving right now, and I'll try and find something nice in Tampa that'll align with that. What about you?
Well, best of luck. I just texted a chef friend of mine. Probably when we stop recording, I'll have an answer for you if there's some gluten-free restaurants there.
Amazing.
She's
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah. What about you, Steve? What are you eating this week?
So here shortly, we will be doing some more content where we're experimenting with what you can do with leftover Halloween candy. I don't know what yet, but will it bake? Will it go good into like goods, things like that, just for fun. But I mean, otherwise, getting back onto meal prep, like some healthier food, vegetables, proteins,
Kale.
chicken. Yeah, kale. Yeah, there you go.
Kale is so sad.
No, I do like kale. When you just got to make it taste good. You got to be creative. Add some acid to it, all that fun stuff. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be good, but man, it's just roughage. Probably this week I have like a garlic chili marinated chicken, sweet potatoes, and I think I need to finish a couple of things in the freezer. So about 2 or 3 episodes ago, Dylan, we had a guest who encouraged us to take part in the SNAP challenge, where you are basically pretending to be on food stamps, for lack of a better explanation of it. But the standard food benefit for a single user would be $180 per month. So you're looking at $6 a day for 3 meals for 30 days. I'm rounding out the end of October. I have $60 left in my budget, but I had such a well-stocked pantry and freezer that now I'm working my way through it. So now it's just like the odds and ends that I put in my freezer to die that I never intended on eating that now I have to eat. So,
good for you. Good for you. That's a great challenge to try and do.
Raising awareness. In light of the government shutdown, there are a lot of folks in DC without jobs right now. So that's where that guest was from. And he was kind of like bringing awareness to that issue and kind of the education around it and how to make your dollar go further with food and stuff. So,
and what I'll just add to that over the top is imagine being gluten-free and trying to do that, right?
100%.
The price, as you all know, the price of all of those items can be double what your normal bread or
well, and the things that people donate to food banks usually have the top 9. It's peanut butter, bread, pasta.
It can be. It's one of, and you asked a question earlier on mission, and I'll close on that. Is like ultimately we're trying to make navigating dietary needs easier, right, for people.
Yeah.
And that's obviously restaurants and dining out, but it's also just bringing awareness more generally to how big of an issue this is for people. And there's so many different angles on it. As you just mentioned, one is affordability, full stop, and just access to the foods that aren't going to make you sick. And not everyone has the luxuries that some other people do. So, we're hoping that the continued advocacy and just pushing for this generally will just help change the entire landscape, not just in restaurant consumers, but just society, full stop.
Yeah, 100% that finding food that is safe to eat shouldn't be a luxury, right?
100%.
It's just an accessibility thing, right? So,
yeah. And if any of your listeners, by the way, foodini.co is our website. Dylan at getfoodini.com is my email. Whether it's on a restaurant side or a consumer side, please feel free to reach out anytime. I always love talking to anyone who has a passion for this space. So those are my details.
Yeah, perfect. We will. I'm going to share it with all my chef friends as well.
Appreciate that.
Dylan, we had a great time talking to you today. Stick around right after we stop recording. We'll chat just a little bit more. But thank you so much for coming on to the Food for ThoughtCast. We will tag you in all the socials, and I can't speak for all the listeners, but Steve and I this was really great. So
Really
we always hope to entertain and educate just a little bit, but we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yep.
That's a wrap for today. Until the next episode of the Food for ThoughtCast, make good food, eat good food, share it, and be kind to one another.
Thanks so much for listening today. You are part of what makes us special, and we are so glad you joined us. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. Just like food, delicious podcasts are better when you share them with others. Come back for seconds wherever podcasts are served, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Food for ThoughtCast.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at the Food for ThoughtCast or at www.foodforthoughtcast.com, where you can link to all podcast players, or you can send us an email at foodforthoughtcmc@gmail.com.